the as you look at this page with graphing your lines, and this is kind of leading into that slalom activity, in that you have to know your y-intercepts and you have to know which direction of your line. And one of my hints is that when you look at the lines, like next to this M, I might put an up arrow because that's a positive and it's going to go up. And next to this M here, it's a 7-4, so I know it has to go up. And this M has to go up. So I might put that to help me as I'm doing those, okay? So as you are looking at this page, yesterday we did 1 and 2. What we do is get that 6, 7, X by itself. If I'm getting that by itself, Nora, what would you do first? I'm going to add 8. Do you need a workbook? Oh, you forgot. Okay, then you can just write this on your paper to add into yours. And if you're doing it on notebook paper, you can just add this page in. So we now have 6 times 7, or 6 divided by 7, X, is equal to 15. Now, there are 2 ways to think about doing this problem at this point. One is, I have 6 divided by 7. The opposite of dividing by 7 is to multiply by what? Multiply by 7. Could we do that on both sides? Multiply on this side by 7. Take 15 times 7. If you don't have a calculator, please take out a calculator. We're going to do some over 6. Could you multiply by 7 over 6 instead of just multiplying by 7 first and then the next step dividing by 6? Yes. I just did it in 2 steps. Does it matter if you do it in 2 steps instead of 1? Nope. Whichever way you want to do it. But make sure you're dividing that 105 by 6 so that we should have our solution X is equal to, what do we end up with? 17.5. Thank you very much. What I want to do, Jordan, is I want to get all the variables on one side. What do you want to do? Do you want to subtract 4t or add 8t? Add 8t. And I would recommend, in the other class this morning, we subtracted 4t, and what happens a lot of times is that when people forget the negative when it's like negative 12t. So my recommendation is always add the smaller one. If you're not sure, look up at the number line on the board here. Oh yeah, negative 8 is definitely smaller than 4. So we are now going to add that. That gives us 12t plus 9. Make sure if you don't have this done that you're writing it down. Minus 13. As I write that, Miley, I need to get 12t by itself. How do I get rid of a plus 9?
Subtract 9.
Subtract 9. So I'm subtracting, and if you need a calculator, take one out. You might not need one for this. We get 12t is equal to negative 13 and negative 9. It's like our temperature these days. Gives us a negative what, Ethan? 22. People are looking at going, oh, this can't be right. It comes out really weird. You're going to get fractions and decimals on some of these. And in this case, we're taking and dividing. Our last step is negative 22 divided by 12. Could you leave this as your answer on the test? Yes. Could you put it as this, negative 11 over 6? Yeah. Could you do the division on your calculator and get negative 1.83? Is that what you're looking at? I would take any of those answers as being correct. Okay? As you take a look at number 8, do we want to look at 8 or 10? Or 8 or 9? Which one would you rather? Because it doesn't matter to me. 8 or 9? Any preference, Ethan? 9. I think 9 too, because not only do you have distributive property, but you also have to add like terms. Whereas in number 8, once you use the distributive property here, then it's kind of like this problem, right? It's the same thing as this one. So in number 9, if we are looking at that one, as we start distributing, okay, we're going to start distributing. Leah, you ready to help me out? What am I going to have? Yes, and then minus. And sometimes I'll put a 1 in front of that h is equal to, again, 1h minus 16. So on this side of my equal sign, I'm adding my like terms. Well, what am I going to end up with? 2h minus h. So if I have 2h on this side minus this 1h. 1h minus 16 equals another 1h minus 16, right? So CC, how do I get rid of this 1h? Subtract 1h. And I get this beautiful thing like negative 16 equals negative 16. And we said earlier that if it's a true statement, we would say h equals all real numbers, right? Okay. Infinitely many solutions. I would take that also. If you don't have this work to go with it, you are not taking the test. Does that make sense, everyone? I need to see how you solve these. So, making sure, put on page 49 for the slope that that's my m, and I might even write rise over run. And I might someplace on this page put my positive slope and my negative slope from the face, right, to help me. Because I know right away looking at 22, it's a negative slope. Whereas when I look at 23, it's a positive slope. When I look at that y-intercept, that's my b or my beginning, right? That's on the y line. So if I'm looking on the y line, automatically I should be able to tell that point pretty easily. So take a look through there. Are there any of those that we need to answer or take a look? 23, and in 23, the first thing I notice is my B point. So when I take a look at number 23, I notice it begins at 2. That's my y-intercept, that's my B. I notice, as we said, this is a positive slope. So now I need to find 2 points on my line. So I have this point, and I have here. And with my slope, I think, oh, the rise over the run. Oh, the rise is 2, the run is 1. So could I just put it as plus 2? Yes. Would I mark it wrong if someone else put 2 over 1? That'd be perfect for me. I'd take either one, okay? If you want to look at it. Let's look at your equations. I look at my question number 12, and I have a denominator. Braden, what's my denominator in my fraction?
-5.
-5. I need to get rid of that. I don't want that -5. So I'm going to put this kind of in a parenthesis, which means I am actually going to take on both sides of that equation, and I'm going to multiply it by the denominator. So I'm going to take -5 times -10 equals, I'm going to keep that parenthesis, 9 plus z. That was divided by -5, and we just said we multiplied by -5, and on this side we probably multiply it by -5 over 1. Now, you could have multiplied this out by -5, but I know that if I have a -5 over -5, that's the same as 1. So I can simplify that fraction and make it easier, okay? Natalie, on this side of the equal sign, we multiply those two together and get how much? Just 50, right? So get 50. Negative times a -50. On this side, since the -5 cancel, we are simply left with 9 plus z. So in order to solve it, Aaron, what am I going to do? To get z by itself. Subtract 9. So I got 50 minus 9, so z is equal to 41. Now I had someone, after all this work we did in class, have 41 done. That's all they had written on their paper. I'm sorry, but you come in to take the test, you're not taking it with just a 41 written there when we went through the work. Okay? So make sure you write it down. Now I want you to take a look at that next one. What are our like terms in 13 as we look at those? What can we add together or combine? So the 5d and the 2d. Can I also combine this other minus d and the -3d? Can I combine all of those together? So please in your head think, I'm going to take 5, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. Should come out to be how many d's? 5 minus 1 is 4, minus 2, we should end up with -1d, and then we have plus 8 equals 0. Now, there is a short way of solving this, and there's a longer way. The short way is we're trying to find what 1D is, not negative 1D. So instead of subtracting 8, I could do what with this negative 1D? I could, no, I can't add 8, but I could add 1D. If I add 1D here and I add to 0, add 1D, I get D, or 1D, equals 8. And I'm done. Now, a lot of people subtracted 8 and then divided by negative 1. Does that work? Yes, for sure it works. Just go on with it. We take a look at this one down here. And then if there's any other ones, we can look at those also. So in number 15, as we are looking at that, Anna, what do we have in our denominator that I want to multiply by? 5. So we're going to take 5 times 3p over 5. And if it helps you to put 5 over 1, write it that way. Plus 5 times 8 fifths. Plus, equals, 1 times 5. And if I'm going to multiply here in the numerator, I get 15p divided by 5, which equals 3p. Here I'm going to take, if I'm multiplying 5 times 8, 40 divided by 5 should give me 8. Now I have some people that go, oh, couldn't I have just done this, Mrs. Thompson? 5 divided by 5 is 1. Yep. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 3p plus 8. Does it matter if you multiply them and then divide? Or if you just divide, it doesn't matter. Equals, but on this side you do want to multiply the 1 times 5. So I'm up to that point. Jeannie, I need to get the 3p by itself. What would I do now? Subtract 8. So I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides, and I get 5 minus 8. And Charlie, I'm going to end up with negative 3. And to finish solving that, we're dividing both sides by 3. And we should get p is equal to negative 1. And you're on the final, you're taking the test, and you're like, oh, how do I make sure I did this right? You go back here and you do the check. And you go 3 times negative 1. Oh, that's going to be negative 3 fifths plus 8 fifths. Well, negative 3 plus 8, that's 5 fifths. That's exactly the same as 1, so it checks. Okay?